Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to 9 PM English News. I'm Hinda. Welcome to the latest news. The head of state proceeded over the Islamic neighborhood of the late Anglais. International scene establishment of global Ebola vaccine stockpile. That was the headlines, and now welcome to the national news. A grand ceremony was held this morning at the People's Place for the release and dedication of the book entitled Along Camerat Anglais, written by the writer poet Dr. Shahim Waita, and the biography testimony and journey of his childhood friend and fellow father, the late Anglais Abu Bakr, who died April 27, 2020. More details in the following report.
Began his political responsibilities under the actual head of state, Ismail Mergeli, of whom he became Deputy Chief of Staff in 1995 and then Chief of Staff from 1999 after President Geli was appointed to the Supreme Judiciary. The late Anglais was the architect of the peace agreement with Ahmed Dini and Sheikh Dawood in 2001. Upon his arrival at the People's Palace, the president was welcomed by the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed and members of the government, director of the palace, Mr. Abba Yazid Adi. Afterwards, the president visited the stands and greeted the author of the book, Dr. Shahim Wata, who dedicated the first book to the president. The ceremony of the release of the book has marked the recent history of our country and was chaired by the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Mergeli, with the participation of all members of the government, including the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, President of the Assembly Muhammad Ali Hamad, his political family, including the Secretary General of the Fruit.
And then this was and the President of the Republic, of course, Ismail Mergeli, with the participation of member government, including the Prime Minister, and the member of the government came to chair in this moment along the side late Anglais for more than 4 years in short moving ceremony. In his speech on this occasion, His Excellency the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Mergeli, referred on this occasion on the importance of writing a book that traces the life of the late Anglais. The President of the Republic has delivered a speech during this ceremony. He has paid a tribute to his brother Anglais. He said that he can't describe in a few words the person he was, who was a friend and many events together in this life. Each person will incantate, may God welcome him in his eternal paradise, because he died after a long plethora of disease, has prayed the President of the Republic. President Gellem implored the Lord to welcome him in his eternal paradise and give strength and patience to his family. He also thanked Dr. Shahim Wata for writing this book, which is a tribute and remembrance to keep the disease in our memory forever. The book, Along Camerat Anglais, is written by great poet and writer from Djibouti, Dr. Shahim Wata, who was congratulated by the President. A book that keeps the story and the journey of the late Anglais in the collective memory, a politician who from his early childhood was involved in the struggle for independence and then in his struggle to restore democracy. Dr. Shahim Wata testified on this journey of the late Anglais, a fighter for freedom, harmony, equality, and national unity, who left his mark on national political life. In addition to his personal testimony, his friend Dr. Shahim Wata has collected multiple sources to write this book and plans to complete this book with other publication on his comrade, the late Anglais. The interpolitical class of Djibouti was there to participate in the ceremony of release and dedication of the book written by the great writer poet Shahim Wata. The author dedicated the book for the member of the government, including the Prime Minister and the President of the Assembly, as well as for private individuals. The enthusiasm was published for the book that tells the story of great politician the late Anglais, who died on April 27, 2020. The book was published in 2,000 copies by the Francolin Publishing House according to the wishes of the late Anglais. With this book, the late Anglais will remain in the collective memory of all the Jewishians. The family of the late Anglais, including his daughter Fathiya, his wife, his nephew, childhood friend, and his fellow comrades, also participated in the release and dedication of the book, who traced his journey. One of his closest friends who knew him in 1970 and two, Arhiba Sheikh Mohammed, gave a frequent speech to his late comrade Anglais. Another friend, Mr. Mohammed Ahmed Daka, testified about his late friend Anglais, a man with a big heart who has marketed the story of the Jaburi. Sheko recounted the common story he had with his friend in Jaburi and Ethiopia. For Sheko, the late Anglais was a close friend, a friendship that lasted 27 years. He was a man with a big heart who served and supported those in need, a common personality with the humanitarianism that extended to all community of the country, and a strong supporter of unity and harmony. On Wednesday, January 13, 2020, the Prime Minister Abdulkader Kamil Mohammed shared at the People Place interministerial meeting which saw the participation on the government of the Central Bank of Djibouti. Hidayah had more for reports.
Ministerial meeting was to inform and sensitize the government members present on the national assessment process of the risks and vulnerability of money laundering and terrorist financing that will be conducted at the national level during the year 2024. The Prime Minister emphasized in his opening address that this assessment exercise will enable Djibouti's public and private institutions operating in the financial sector to develop and strengthen their capacities in these areas by complying with the recommendations of the CAFIM-1, the Financial Action Task Force of Middle East and North African states. The governor of the central bank, accompanied by two officials of the supervisory body of the banking and financial sector, returned to the objectives and challenges of this evaluation process by placing it in the perspective of the role of financial hub that Djibouti intends to ensure in the region in accordance with Vision 2035 of the head of state.
The Prime Minister Abdulkader Kamil Mohammed received Wednesday morning return Mr. Damien Renard, Senator representing French citizen living in April. For more details, let's see how it is. Hidayah.
During the meeting with the Prime Minister, the Senator shared his impression on the considerable progress noted in Djibouti despite the global context of COVID-19. In this regard, the Prime Minister mentioned the health measures, including screening put in place from the beginning of the pandemic in Djibouti to stem the spread of the virus. The two men subsequently discussed together the cultural, economic, and military aspects of bilateral cooperation between the two countries. Emphasis was placed on ways to further strengthen them.
The President of Port and Free Zone Authority, Mr. Bakar Omar Hadi, received this morning Mr. Damien Renard, Senator representing French citizen living outside of France. During this meeting, the President of the Port and Free Zone Authority and the Senator discussed at length on several topics such as investment by French companies in Djibouti and the role of a MEDF, International French Foreign Trade Advisor, in promoting business and investment between the two countries. And during his visit to the International Free Zone, French Senator Damien Renard saw firsthand the remarkable progress made in port development, but also how the Republic of Djibouti has given itself the means to become a logistic and trade hub in the region. Under the chairmanship of the Honorable Abdurrahman Awali Yassin, the members of the Standing Committee of Foreign Affairs stand to that in charge of the Committee on Legislation, General Administration and Human Rights. Meeting with this Wednesday, January 2021, The objective was to examine the draft law number 107 year 28 legislature on the creation of the National Authority for Nuclear, Radiological, Chemical, Biological Safety and Security. This logical meeting of the Commission took place in the presence of the Minister of Higher Education and Research, Dr. Nabil Mohamed Ahmed, accompanied by his main collaborators as well as the head of the department. At the end of the instructive and rich debate on the consequent stabilization of the aforementioned project of creation, the mission gave the favorable opinion of the commissioner for its transmission and adoption in public session with the amendment. The First Lady of Somalia, Ms. Zainab Abdi Maalin, who is on mission to Djibouti, visited this morning the Arta city, where she went to view the site that hosted the Peace and Reconciliation Conference of Somalia in 2000 before meeting with the administrative authority of the region of Arta and the student in training of the summer center. During her visit to the site, the First Lady of Somalia, Mrs. Zainab Ali, was welcomed by the Prefect of Arta, Mr. Hassan Sheikh Hassan, and senior officials of the region. She was warmly welcomed with all honors of joyful atmosphere, animated with the traditional songs and dance. During this visit, she was accompanied by senior officials of the UNIFD, the ambassador of Somalia in Djibouti, and the singer Fatuma Nkrumah, who participated in the Peace and Reconciliation Conference of Somalia in the year 2000. For her birthday, Somalia Prime Minister Fatuma Hussein Aden, who praised the security and stability enjoyed by the Republic of Djibouti under the wise leadership of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh. After visiting the site where the Peace and Reconciliation Conference of Somalia took place, the delegation led by the First Lady of Somalia went to the Arta Summer Center, where she was warmly welcomed by the local authority and students of the Sunny Hill Center. After a short stay in the presidential, the First Lady and her delegation took part of lunch offered by the Sunny Hill Center in the festival atmosphere. The First Lady exchanged with the leaders and students of the center before sharing a hearty meal. After the exchange of gifts, the singer Fatuma Nkrumah made a touching reminder of the period of reconciliation of Somalis in the year 2000 by paying a tribute to the President of the Republic, Omar Guelleh. She sang songs emphasizing the reciprocal brotherhood between Djibouti and Somalia. The Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, Major General Secretary Sheikh Ibrahim, received this morning at the Directorate of the International Relations of the ADF, the commander of CGTHOA, Major General Leite Flora, detailed in this video.
Major General Laptisi Flora was accompanied by a large delegation including Brigadier General Kudel Casterens, the U.S. Defense Attaché in Djibouti, Commander Christian Kerwels. This working visit is part of the military cooperation relationship with Camp Lemonnier. The delegation has been welcomed by Lieutenant Colonel Ibrahim Zikri Sheikh Ibrahim, Director of the Directorate of International Relations. During the meeting, the two military authorities discussed various topics related to the cooperation relationship between the two countries in the military field and especially between our two armies. They also gave a comprehensive overview of the regional political and security situation, including the current conflict between Somalia and Kenya. On this occasion, SEMGA informed General Frola of the presence of a mixed political and military Djiboutian delegation in Ethiopia for reconciliation between the two nations. This delegation was appointed on the directive of the Supreme Chief of the Army, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, at the IGAD in Djibouti in December 2020. Also, as part of the mission of the Djiboutian delegation to Ethiopia, the two military authorities were positive on the resolution of the conflict between the two neighboring countries.
Upon landing at the border town of Mandera, which is located 101,100 kilometers from the capital of Nairobi, and after 2 hours of flight, the Egyptian delegation, composed by diplomats and military, were warmly welcomed by military authority of city of Mandera. Details in this below.
Mandated by the heads of state of the IGAD member countries, the Djiboutian delegation, composed of diplomats and military personnel, continues its mediation mission through a favorable framework and through the premise of consensus and negotiated solutions. Moreover, the diplomatic and military delegation of Djibouti was today accompanied by high military officials and several Kenyan ambassadors, including the Kenyan ambassador to Djibouti, the Kenyan ambassador to Ethiopia, and the Kenyan ambassador to Somalia. After this welcome, the two parties began a series of discussions to shed light on the facts denounced by Mogadishu in order to solve the problem through talks that may also help to diffuse tensions between the two neighboring countries. During this meeting, the two parties discussed a number of important points concerning the dispute between Somalia and its neighbor Kenya. The civil and military authorities of Kenya, for their part, gave the Djiboutian delegation a broad presentation on the situation in the border town of Mandera through documents and maps. According to the Kenyan delegation, and following their presentation on the situation in this city, Kenya has nothing to do with the facts denounced by Mogadishu. They also affirmed that Kenya respects and defends the international principles of self-determination, sovereignty, political independence, and territorial integrity of all countries, especially those in Africa. In support of their territory, the civil and military authorities of Kenya invited the delegation of Kenya to make an inventory of the city of Mandera. Thus, the Djibouti delegation viewed via helicopter the different sectors of the border town to see firsthand the situation in that sector. Not to forget that the main objective of the talks and mediation is to be able to resolve the dispute between the two countries amicably so that the two countries resume diplomatic relations.
As part of the continuity of activities and festivities for the 20th anniversary by the University of Djibouti, an important interactive conference was held in the amphitheater of the university campus of Balbala. Indeed, many international were made by former students of the Faculty of Law who are now working on their own account as a notary lawyer practicing in the public administration. These young men and women came to testify about their career path and difficulties they are encountering. It was an opportunity to encourage and congratulate a young university student to persevere in their study and finally be able to realize their dreams. Activities commemorating the 20th anniversary of the University of Djibouti continued as yesterday. An open house was held at the university campus of Balbala, a day of science awareness for young collection organized by the Faculty of Science, the Faculty of Engineering, and the UED. Young students were able to visit the theater and the FAP Lab, English Manufacturing Laboratory, or manufacturing laboratory. The aim of this awareness day was to enable young college students to better immerse themselves in the scientific world. In the morning of January 9, 2021, at 10 a.m., the gendarmerie of the Brigade Section 67 and those of the Brigade Sheikh Musa, with the assistance of inspector and lawyer from the Ministry of Health, proceeded with the control of two medical centers located on circular road of the section Sheikh Musa Balbala. During this control, the gendarmerie were astonished to note that these two medical centers are without medical license issued by the General Inspection of the Ministry of Health. Moreover, they are managed by former medical assistant in this guard of health rules and medical protocol. This clandestine health structure are equipped with hospital beds. A patient under infection was found hospitalized in one of the two centers. The medical care is set at between 10,000 and 20,000 francs. The gendarmerie proceeded to search two centers. This operation led to the discovery of banally by medicine and medical equipment, as well as a forged medical practice document held by one of them. In view of the seriousness of the fact, the accused person will be brought to justice to answer for their criminal acts. And now moving on to the international news, a stockpile of 500,000 doses of Ebola vaccine for emergency use in outbreak of the deadly fever is being established by the Global Vaccine Alliance (Gavi). The plan is for poor and middle-income countries to access the $178 stockpile free of charge, Gavi said on Tuesday, while other countries will need to refine the cost. Discovery will start with the market's newly developed RFA vaccine, which won regulatory approval last month. That's it for this edition. Thanks for your attention and very wonderful evening.